Up on the open mic, we have a Speakeasy favorite who is also one of our teachers, Mr. Kevin Boggs.
Look at all these people. It's funny. Thank you for coming out. I know American Idol's on. What you don't know is Bono and I go way back. The first time I met Bono was about 12 years ago at Kramer Books and Afterwards. I was a manager there, and it was a really busy night this night, and it was the Friday before Memorial Day, and all these people were coming in, and this little couple came up and asked for a table, and I just put them on the waiting list and told them a half an hour, and off they went to the bookstore to do whatever they do. Then Adina, my partner in trouble, comes running up to me. Now, Adina is a 6-foot-tall Bosnian refugee with spiked peroxide blonde hair and red lipstick. What her coworkers didn't know about Adina was that 4 years earlier she had come to the country as a foreign exchange student, thinking of Manhattan, but she ended up in Union City, Pennsylvania. And the night she was supposed to return to Bosnia, to then Yugoslavia, the borders were closed. She got this news in a hotel room outside of Reagan National. At that moment, she lost her country, her family, her home. All she had was her luggage and her return check. Now, when we met Adina, Adina was a senior at Corcoran School of Art, very self-sufficient, took shit from no one. She comes running up to me and goes, "Do you know who that was?" Adina had a very low voice. Think of Kathleen Turner with a Slavic accent. And I said, "No, I do not," because I had a very high voice with a Southern accent. Think Gomer Pyle. She said, "That's Bono." And I looked out in the bookstore, and there was this little tiny man. He's like 5 foot tall, and he had a hoodie on, you know, pulled way down, which is unusual back then. It's common today. And he kind of looked like one of those sand people from Star Wars. The first one, the good one. So I run out there, and to be the manager that I was, I said, "You know what? I made a mistake. I'm going to get your table right away. There'll be just one wee moment." Get it? Wee. Irish. Short. Never mind. So I run and I put him in the middle of the dining room next to the windows, thinking other people might think that they see Bono also and might recognize him and think that it's a hipper place, and it is, and I can justify charging $25 for a piece of pie and a cup of coffee. Adina comes running and she goes, "I want to wait on him." Now Adina had the whole mezzanine upstairs that overlooks the bookstore. She had a full station up there. I'm like, "There's no way." She goes, "I'll do it." She runs upstairs, she looks at all her customers, she goes, "The silverware is here. The napkins are there. The water's there. Help yourself. If you need to pay, I hope you brought cash, because Bono's downstairs." And down she runs. Now the rest of the evening goes pretty fine until it's time for him to leave, and I, being the manager, came over and I said, "You know what? We've taken care of your bill." And that's when it happened. When Bono shook my hand, this one right here, for the first time. So, then Adina went berserk on me. She became this groveling little celebrity geek. And her voice went up an octave, and she started to explain to him what I didn't know, is that when the conflict started in Yugoslavia, Bono, and U2, went there and gave a concert to help draw political and social attention. And it had meant a lot to her, and to her friends, who are all teenagers and had seen the show. And he smiled and he said, "Write down your name, because Monday night in the concert, I'm going to dedicate Miss Sarajevo to you. Will you be there? I can get you guys free tickets." What Bono didn't know was the borders had been opened, and this was Adina's last night in the United States. She was going home to visit her family for the first time in 4 years. And what Bono didn't know also was the fact that her family had lost everything. They had lost their home. They had lost everything. And Adina, being a student and waiting tables, was bankrolling the whole family. She was sending home care packages once a month, cosmetics for her mother, and wedding supplies for her sister, even though the fiancé was eventually shot. and killed. So Adina just said, no, I won't be at the concert. I'm going home for the first time in 4 years. And he said, you must be extremely excited. She said, no, I feel guilty because I've prospered and they lost. And he stood up and he took her hands and he said, go home large. Let them know a generation isn't lost. You can be their hope. And Adina started to cry. And Adina's a hugger, so she grabbed him and she pulled him close and nestled his head right in her navel. And I thought that she was attacking the poor man, so I run over. And that's when he shook my hand the second time. And off they went. And off Adina went home. And Adina went home and she repacked all her luggage. She took her best clothes. She dyed the roots in her peroxide blonde hair. She put on her makeup and off she went to Bosnia to see her family. When she arrived, 36 hours later, she comes off the airplane, she sees her mother, her father, her 2 sisters for the first time. There's hugging, there's laughing, there's crying. She goes, you'll never guess who I met. And her mother says, Bono, we know. Her mother had a deep voice too. So, what Adina didn't know was that after she left the restaurant, I, being a good manager, had gotten on the phone and called our PR person who had called the Washington Post. And the next morning, there in the style section on the 3rd page, in the reliable source, it said, Bono, bold letters, was spotted in the wee hours. Get it? Yeah, it's funny when Roxanne Roberts writes it, right? I know who you are now. Promised to dedicate Miss Sarajevo to his waitress, Adina Selasovic, in bold letters, you know, like she was somebody. And then the AP picked it up, and then Voice of America picked it up. So Adina's family, on their way in the car to the airport to pick up their daughter, heard this story on the radio. True story. Go home large. Go home large indeed. That is the story of the night I met Bono. Thank you.